Hello once again, viewers, and welcome back to a video that I've had on my mind for quite a while. Just didn't really know when to do it, and considering that, the Pastor McGee or Huggy or whatever the hell his name was, conversation is going around, and the unfortunate Oregon mass shooting that just occurred, this seemed like a particularly good time to cover this topic, especially since I'm kind of in the middle of a bunch of different projects, so I'm just trying to get out of the way, and get this out a little earlier than I thought I would. So, basically, what am I talking about here? As you know, if you followed my channel for any period of time, I've been playing through a lot of Metal Gear Solid, a lot of Hideo Kojima's work, his flagship series, all the wonderful things that Metal Gear Solid has been for everyone involved. And, of course, later down the line, I do plan to play the retro Metal Gears again, because I do want to do a top 10 and a bottom 10 boss fight video in the future for just that series, because it is an incredibly just diverse pool of boss fights, and, it needs to be categorized as such. But anyway, getting back to the reason I'm actually talking about here, it comes back to a line. A specific piece of dialogue from Metal Gear Solid 4 that I do remember. It does stand out in my mind, incredibly so, because it was one of the stupidest goddamn things I've ever seen. I'll probably put a clip about here just to make sure that we are on the same page.
Nowadays, anyone with a computer can get combat training. The FPS games that these children love are distributed for free by these companies. Of course, it's all just virtual training. It's so easy for them to get absorbed by these war games. And before they know it, they're in the PMCs holding real guns.
Okay. Now, as we've seen from Pastor McGee from... I'm trying to remember that insane lawyer guy's name, who's now non-relevant because he's been disbarred. He was the anti-video game lawyer. I'm probably never going to think of his name. And we've seen this time and time again from conservative outlets, from people who don't understand video games, from people it's people pandering to people who don't understand it. It's completely pointless and completely baseless, as multiple studies have proven that it's completely false. And anyone with a logical brain can see that banging a few keys on a keyboard or clicking a couple buttons is not going to be able to teach someone how to use a gun. If anyone picked up a gun that they didn't know how to use properly, then it'd probably turn out something like, I don't know, this.
I think I got him. Did I get him?
You did. You got those two guys who were just minding their own business. Ooh, and also the one remaining person who could fly us back to Earth.
Yeah, so your whole video games teach people how to shoot guns thing is completely baseless and makes you look like a fucking idiot, because it's completely stupid and people with logical brains are going to be able to see behind it. But, that's what the conservatives do. They pander to people who don't get it, which is honestly our fault. Well, it's not our fault, but, it's just honestly what they do. It's how they build their support, which is probably why conservatives find their bases in elderly people, It's an unfortunate stereotype, but it does work to their advantage. What am I getting to the main point of? Well, I'm getting to the main point of discussing all these other people who've held up the same flag of complete nonsense as before. The reason I'm getting to that is, people already have nothing to do with video games are doing this adequately well. It shouldn't be video game developers adding to the problem. Hideo Kojima, you are a video game developer. You make video games. Hell, you had a hand in creating Metal Gear Rising, which is an incredibly violent game. Of course, probably Platinum Games probably takes a lot of credit for that, but for the love of God, Hideo Kojima, we have people all across the board who are fighting against video games. We don't need video games themselves to be holding up the same idiotic statements that have no basis in actual reality, which probably makes a huge point because your games are so fantastically, incredibly unrealistic. But why the fuck did you decide to put that stupid line in? To make a basis for a claim that the world that you created fantastically is getting more violent. It wouldn't even work in your fantastical world unless somehow the video games of that world were, like, incredibly realistic. Again, I'm trying to think of the word. Had incredibly realistic controllers, you know, like actual plastic guns that had some sort of recoil thing, like some sort of ridiculous simulator. Not in the world where we have fucking button-clicking bullshit to make bullets fly at imaginary enemies. Sorry, I'm talking off the top of my head and I'm so fucking frustrated with this because it's the pinnacle of fucking stupidity. Hideo Kojima, why would you even consider that a thing that you would even have to reference? I know that Metal Gear Solid 4 story is all over the place and doesn't make any fucking sense, but you shouldn't be adding to a problem which has enough detractors already who don't understand it. It shouldn't be coming from people who understand why it's a fucking fallacy. Why the fuck are you adding? This is adding to an argument from an imaginary character to another imaginary character, adding basis to evidence that makes absolutely no sense in any logical form in this reality. I'd only let that slide if the context of the reality that you've created is so divergent from ours that it would actually have some fallacy or some fact involved in it. If every single fucking shooter thing was made in a completely ridiculous one-to-one simulator that we don't have here. I mean, even the simulators of like actual running to make characters move in Call of Duty don't have fucking like actual gun recoil or any sort of one-to-one feedback from the guns that they're holding to control the guns in the game. No fucking video game out there that we know about, controller, keyboard to monitor to console, teaches people how to use guns because a gun needs to actually be used by pulling the trigger to understand where the fucking bullets are going to go, or else, like the clip showed, you're just going to be spraying them all over the place and actually hit none of your targets, and it's completely ridiculous. We have a problem in video games, and we have a problem that we need to deal with in the United States about all this gun violence, but we don't need people who are supposed to be pro-video games detracting from the same goddamn problem. It's a fucking stupid line that should have been excised completely, but apparently since none of Hideo Kojima's editors even existed, that would never have happened. So I'm blaming Hideo Kojima because he covers his fucking games all the time with directed by Hideo Kojima, so this is your fucking fault. You did have a hand in this and you let it slide. And it adds to an argument Eva's making about the violence of your world, about fucking JD, that has no evidence in reality, because I guarantee you that every video game in MGS4's world is probably the same video games that we have in this one. They don't show any evidence to the fucking contrary, so stop it, Hideo Kojima, and fuck you for putting this line in here. Fuck you the same way that you put those goddamn enemies at the end of Peace Walker's Nicaraguan base just to troll people. You're a fucking idiot for writing this. Your writing staff is a bunch of idiots for writing this complete fallacy into your game. And it just made me want to fucking throw my controller at the goddamn screen. And that's what pisses me the fuck off. It just pisses me off that this one line exists in a video game from someone who spans over 20 years of the fucking industry and knows it inside and out. It's ridiculous. It's completely stupid and backwards to even believe this thing. And apparently, Hideo Kojima at one time did, to make a point for a story that has no semblance of reality or even narrative context within the game. It's so fucking all over the place. This doesn't need to be added on fucking top of it. And that's what pisses me off a little bit and what made me decide to make this video in the first place. So, I hope you enjoyed me yelling at my microphone for the last 8 minutes. But, as always, I will end this video as I always do, and I hope you do check out more of my rant videos since the first one has been so successful. Although I don't know if that has to do with the subject matter or anything. I guess this will be the test for that, but anyway, victory for gamers, and I hope you check out the next one, because we're definitely going to be going there. See you later.